Welcome to Those Who Can't Do. I am Andrea Forkham, and today I have with me Leslie Robinson, who is a stand-up comedian and a speaker and a teacher. And I'm so excited you're here today, Leslie.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we've been like internet friends for a while now. I feel like it's been like 2 years, maybe?
Yeah,
Something
it's
like that.
crazy. Time flies.
It does. It's been a minute. And we
Yeah.
also have something else in common is that I did some of my, like, it wasn't my student teaching because I never did student teaching, but I did have to do that early on. Like, what is the word for that? Like immersion experiences,
Like
practicum.
cooperating practicum type thing.
Exactly. I had to spend, I think it was around 30 hours in a local school while I was getting my license and my master's before I got my actual emergency teaching license placement. And I
Yeah.
did it at your school, which is crazy.
That's insane.
I know.
That's so insane.
Such a small world. Now,
Yeah.
I got my bachelor's and my first master's from University of Mary Washington. Is that where you went as well?
No, I didn't go to University of Mary Washington. I went to Liberty. But
Okay.
University of Mary Washington, it's right here.
Yeah, it's right in their backyard. And funny enough, I actually got my PhD from Liberty. So
That's funny. Well, hey, there you go. Lots in common.
I know. Yeah, no kidding. So now you are still teaching. And what is it that you're teaching right now?
I am teaching family and consumer sciences, which used to be called home ec, but it's no longer politically correct to say home ec. So now it's family and consumer sciences. But by the time you explain it, I'm like, it's home ec.
It's home ec, right? Yeah.
There's no other way to explain it. Let's just be for real. Yeah.
So your main thing, because that is one of the classes that I always got really jealous of from a teacher perspective, because I feel like you get to do some really fun stuff in your class that I'm like, I want to go bake cookies or I want to go and all the stuff that people the kids can't use the excuse, when am I ever going to use this? Right.
But they still try. They still try. And
Do
what's
they
funny
really?
is literally last year I was teaching hospitality and one of the students, no lie, I even had made it like a post about it because one of my kids asked me when we're going to ever use this. And I'm like, hospitality, dude, it's the most basic thing that everybody has to use.
Right.
But
it's
yeah,
those soft
I
skills.
still get that question apparently. So.
Oh my gosh. So when now I'm just thinking of all of these things that fascinate me about doing, and usually when I see it, people write out the acronym, the FACS, right? They call it facts. When you're setting up your units, do you set up this is the how to do your home finances unit, how to do your cooking unit? How do you separate that out?
Yeah, so I do mine a little differently. Some of our more traditional teachers, they have it set up where they actually label the units and that type of thing. I do mine and I kind of spice it up a bit. I'm like, this is what you'll use when you blah, 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 blah. So the kids actually get a practical way to apply it. When we're doing our finance unit, rather than saying learning about finances or whatever, I say, you're going to need an apartment. Here's how you do it. You're going to need a budget. You're going to need car insurance and all this stuff and balancing it out. So I try to break it down to even smaller units within the unit so the kids get the whole point in, why we're doing it. So
yeah. Yeah. Do you have kids start to panic and stress when you show them their financial future?
You would hope that they would panic a little bit more than some of them do.
Yeah.
But you can tell the kids who live in a home where their parents are like, dude, when you turn 18, you're out. And you can tell the kids who come from a background where it's I still have some time. I could live here till kingdom come. My mom would love it,
Right.
So and that also gives you an opportunity to kind of see where the kids are.
Yeah.
And, in their stages of life as far as their home life. So,
yeah. So now as far as the grades, is it all grades that you have in that class?
Yes. So I have grades 9th through 12th. And so for things more like our sex ed and our life planning and stuff like that, we type and resume building and all those things, we kind of shift towards the upper levels because 9th and 10th aren't quite there yet, nor are they mature enough to handle some of the conversation.
Right.
But most of the other classes, the individual development, which is adulting 101, that has all 4 grade levels. So we have a variety of grade levels across the board, but it's just a matter of 9th and 10th or 11th and 12th or all 4. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, so you are the one who gets to have the sex ed conversation with students?
Yes. So I can't remember if our PE department still does that as well, actually, because I've actually been the one who has done it so long that I know in some areas PE still does it, but for us, like it's literally just been me. Like, and so I enjoy it because I want my kids to know like that, a lot of kids can't talk to their parents, but they can talk to me.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of fun. Like
Yeah.
it does. I enjoy it.
That's so interesting. I feel
Mhm.
like, well, now I went to a private Christian school, K through 12. So
Okay.
but my parents are from a medical background. So my parents always were very, very detailed and upfront and very medical about it.
Okay.
Like they explain. So I had no questions. I know some of my peers, that was not the case at home. So in our
Yeah.
biology class is where they would actually explain the birds and the bees from just a very clinical standpoint. But as
Huh.
far as like any kind of like discussion about how to prevent pregnancy or anything like that, like the conversation was like, here are some things, but abstinence is the way that you should prevent pregnancy. Is close
Aw.
those legs, baby. Like that was a
Yes.
lot. It was a lot of
Mhm.
that. Um, but
Yes.
I just but that obviously was at a private Christian school, and you were at a public school. So do you have to do the thing that I feel like I've seen in a lot of movies with the banana and the condom and all that?
Now that is more of like the PE, because believe it or not, which is so funny to even think about now that the PE department was the ones who handled the sex ed talk.
They're like, it's
It's so
physical
weird.
activity. It
Yeah,
counts. You're-
it's it's physical education. There we
right.
go. Yeah, and I guess because like they teach like the health, like some of the kids, when it comes to PE, they do half PE, half health, and so like
Oh,
during their
okay.
health time, I think they would often cover they call it family life instead of calling it sex ed,
Right.
and obviously permission forms and all that stuff has to be done. But for my class, because it is an elective, in my syllabus at the beginning of the year, look, I'm like, I'm covering my bases. Mama ain't coming after me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I put in my syllabus, these are things we talk about. And I make the parents, when they additionally sign the syllabus and, the course description and all that stuff, I also have them sign that this is what we're going to talk about. And you need to be okay with it. So
Right. So if a parent says they're not okay with it, but they do want their kid to take the class for the other stuff, how do you handle that?
now it just depends. So, like, if it's a parent who is like to the point where they don't want any of it discussed, because like, it's not a like the way that I teach my class, it's not like a hey, this is the one unit and then that's it. Like, I allow my students, if something comes up, I know this probably smack on the hand for this, but if something comes up and they're like at a party and something happens
Yeah.
and they're like, Miss Rob, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I don't know like what's TMI, but
No, you're fine.
okay. Like, because I had one student, for example, who was like, Miss Rob, like, it didn't go all the way in, but something came out. Like, is it gonna blah blah blah? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I want them to feel free, like, because they're terrified. And who
Right.
else can they go to? Our school nurse can't cover certain things because of HIPAA requirements and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
just always want my kids to feel comfortable. Like they need to
Right.
know, like they can go to the health department. They need to know their resources, and what works. I mean, abstinence is great, but let's just be
Let's be so for
realistic.
real. Let's be
Let's just be
so for real. How many
realistic.
girls at my school got pregnant and then suddenly went to a different school for a bit,
Yeah, and they
Like
disappear. They went
they
to go
just
visit a
disappeared.
distant relative.
Yeah, it was like a real Victorian era thing where like, oh, she got a case of the pregnancies and so she won't be back for a bit.
Exactly. So, like, it's hard to do that. Like, when the parents are like, hey, I don't want my child discussing this. Okay, fine, no problem. But what I do is I'll have that child go to another classroom. And that's, how the buddy
That's
teacher system
awkward.
works.
Yeah.
So we have the buddy teacher system, and I don't want the kid to feel embarrassed. So I'm like, hey, sweetie, could you take this to Miss whoever for me?
Oh, that's
And
great.
they'll go and sit with that teacher, and they know me and Miss Rob, you and I know what's going on. But
Right.
so they
That's
don't
really
get
smart.
embarrassed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, and I think it's, great to be educating kids because I end up, well, obviously, literally, that's the premise of everything I do. It's,
I mean,
I don't want to do any hot takes here today, but I think it's great to be educating kids.
I mean, it's just awesome.
Awesome.
Somehow.
About their bodies is where I was going, but I just stopped. I was like,
You're like, I just kind of just cut
education
it right
is like good, I think. Oh my
education, I
God.
think, works. I mean, I think it's a
Oh
good
my
thing.
gosh. I had somebody on a YouTube video that I posted that was talking about like some kid had said that they thought they asked in class like, "Oh, could you get pregnant from oral sex?" And obviously I was like interacting as if I was like the teacher. "No, you can't, sweetie." And there were so many comments on that video from people, and
Really?
I'm assuming children. I'm assuming these are
Mhm,
unsupervised kids on my
mhm.
page. One girl said, "No, it depends on the order. It's happened." And I was like,
Um,
"No, see, in that moment where you tilted your head and you thought about it and you thought about the order, there is no order."
I'm like, "Is there an order?" Like,
I'm
I'm
like,
like,
"Hold on. Let me just if you had it
that's
no, there
exactly what
is
I
no
just did in my
order."
head. I'm like, "So
Yeah.
could you, like, maybe move a note to the left?"
No,
No, no,
I don't
it's
know
still the
the
same.
I
Yeah.
can't fathom. I cannot fathom. But I feel like it's like when we were in high school, there was like that you could get pregnant from a toilet seat or you could
Mhm.
get pregnant from and I had what you said your student asked about like, "Oh, it didn't go in," but it like,
Yeah,
I had a
but some
girl
yeah.
yeah, there was a girl I went to school with and we were like in high school and I remember we were talking and somebody made a comment about like it going in and she's like, "Wait, it goes inside?" And I was like, "Girl." She's like, "I thought it was like a hot dog in a bun situation."
It just gets
No,
placed.
just
Just gets
just
placed.
placed right there. Just hot dog in the bun. And I was like, "No, no, baby, no." And she was so
No,
mortified.
sweetheart.
Because again, like I had just a very clinical understanding of it from a very young age where my parents were like, "This is it," and then this happens. And
Mhm.
like my parents met in PA school. So like it was never something that I didn't understand. Like I don't remember a
Right.
time where I didn't feel like I could ask my parents about that, which
That's amazing.
incredible. And at the time I was like, well, of course you can. But now having worked with so many kids, I realize like it is very uncomfortable for a lot of people to have those conversations. And my husband always is always like cringing because my daughter is 6 now and she will ask me questions
Mhm.
and I'll answer her very, very frankly about them.
Yeah.
Um, and we were at a public restroom and she saw like the tampon dispenser, right? And she asked me, she's like, "Oh, what are those?" And I was like, "Well, those are tampons." And she's like, "What are they for?" I guess after this week, now we know that they're for poisoning us. I don't know if you saw the arsenic in tampons thing.
No.
Google metals and tampons.
Shut up.
Yeah, a big thing just came out about it. It's
Oh, wow.
terrifying.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, look it up. But my daughter was like, I was like, well, girls, when they, hit puberty, they start to bleed. And we had a little conversation about that. And she was
Yeah.
like, why? And I'm like, well, that's how, girls pretend to like begin to get ready to become a mom. And she's like, does it happen to boys? And I'm like, no. And she's like, well, that's not fair. I'm like,
You like, I
well,
agree.
yes, yes. And then she asked me if it hurts. And I'm like, a little bit. Yeah, it
Well,
does. And
just
she's like,
tad. Just a
no,
tad.
but I live in fear. Like I've had students who haven't known what was coming and then it happened and it was very traumatic. So I'm always very much like, let's
Yeah.
make sure she kind of has an idea of what our bodies are going to do and all of that.
Mhm.
But I because I had such a good relationship with my parents, I didn't feel like I had to talk to a teacher about it as much. What do you do in your classroom to kind of establish that relationship so your students feel like they can have that conversation? Because I know there are a lot of teachers that wouldn't feel comfortable necessarily answering
Yeah.
some questions like that.
Yeah, and it's so funny because, like, one of the teachers, she tells me all the time, she's like, "I'm glad that's you and it's not me because I could not." But that's the thing. It's like I establish a relationship with my students from the jump, like from day one. Like I give like one of my favorite things to do on the first day of school is I get pass out the lyrics to "This Is Me." And I play the clip from The Greatest Showman, the song "This Is Me," and the kids read the lyrics first, and then they watch the video, and then we talk about it. And I would tell each and every one of them, I don't want you to be anybody but yourself. Like whoever yourself is, I want you to be that. And it just like you can see like not physically, but you can almost see like the weight lifted, like because the kids are like this in a society that's so social media driven and so comparison driven. I want these kids to just truly learn to embrace who they are, and I want them to know that I embrace who they are. So I try to establish that from the beginning. And so that initially is what I can say that breaks the ice, but then I pay attention and I'm present. Like, I want to make sure that my kids all feel seen, they feel loved on, that we have some type of connection, even if it's a strange connection. Like, especially the kids who come off as like, yo, I'm hard. You ain't gonna come for me, Miss Rob. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I'm gonna win you over.
Right.
Like, those are the ones that I get excited about most, because I'm like, you just wait. You're gonna love me.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
now I feel like one of the things I hear a lot from people is that teachers are constantly trying to push kids towards universities and colleges and all of that kind of stuff. The school district that you're in, I feel like, is a really interesting mix of very rural and then city. Like, we have kids whose parents, I think, have very much the expectation of college, but you also have kids who none of their family has gone to college and they want to go into a trade or agriculture or any of that kind of stuff. How do you deal with that kind of almost, I don't even know if tension is the right word, but just like that diverse life experience that comes to your class?
I love it. Because the best part about it is, even though this is a diverse, like you said, area, I grew up here. I was born and raised here. My dad and mom born and raised here. So, like, these are my people. So it's easy for me to adapt in that way. And I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, listen, I was the first person in my family to go to college. Like, my parents barely graduated high school. I had to learn what a FAFSA was. I had to go through all the dynamics. I said, but at the same time, I want you to be okay. And it's funny that you said that. I had a student, I love her, Sierra. And I had Sierra a few years back, and she was born and raised where we are. She's super smart, honor student. And everybody was pushing her to go to college, go to college, go to college. And she's like, Miss Rob, I just want to work on my family farm. Like, that's all I want to do. Like, I know I could go to college. I know it could be something great, but I just want to be basic. And her boyfriend, like, they wanted to get married young and work the farm and live the farm life. But then I had a student who struggled a lot, but she fought her way to pass and then go to college. So, I try to get the kids to see themselves as individuals. Like, I try to serve the individual and not the group as much as possible, which, sometimes with class sizes, it can be difficult, but I want each of the kids to embrace their individuality and what works for them.
Yeah.
And so I often just say, hey, if it's working the family farm, it's working the family farm. If it's, hey, I literally, like, one of my boys, he's so funny. He's like, look, when I graduate, because the best part about our area is we have something called the Career and Tech Center, which is a vocational center that is tied to all 5 high schools. And so our kids get to go and do automotive. They get to go do HVAC, refrigeration, all those things. And so for him, he's like, listen, Miss Rob, I'm going literally, he's like, I'm just going to go down there to the tech center. I'm going to get my refrigeration license, and I'm going to do HVAC for the county the rest of my life. I'm going to retire, got me a trailer. I got some land from my daddy, and that's what I'm going to do. And literally, that's what he does. I see him all the time, and he's working for the county as a maintenance man. He's living his best life.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people, and I don't think it's our generation of teachers that is so single-mindedly focused on sending kids only to the university system. As someone who works in the university system, like, it's not going to be the best option for some people, because at the end of the day, the kid who works in HVAC, number one, making more money than me. Can tell you that right now. Guaranteed.
For sure.
Guaranteed. Making
100%.
more money than my salary.
100%.
And he would hate to sit in an office environment or have to sit completely, like, he probably has a mind that wants to puzzle and wants to problem solve and move and do, like, all of these different tasks. And I think that from the teacher perspective, my goal was always not to tell the kids which route they should take, but to make sure they were prepared for whichever route they wanted.
Whatever. Yep.
Exactly. So you have that kid that you mentioned that was really struggling and was able to crawl their way and get into college. And the other kid who, school was really easy for them, but they wanted to manage the farm. And to me, I feel like there is, like, this misconception that you're not using your mind if you're working on a farm, which is wild to me, because the amount of, like, science and chemistry and all of that is involved in successfully. I cannot even keep a plant in my house alive.
Same. I just killed an orchid. My friend said you can't even kill an orchid. But I killed an orchid.
Are you sure it's dead? Because someone gave me an orchid as a gift and I've kept it alive, but all the petals fall off and then it comes back. So maybe your orchid's still alive.
Oh,
did you throw it away?
That's what happened. All the petals fell off. And I was
come
like,
back.
oh
Did
gosh,
you throw it away
died.
already?
And I threw it away literally 2 days ago. Oh my God.
It was probably going to
Whoops.
come back because they do. They just kind of look like sticks and then the flowers come back and they
Yeah.
fall out. Yeah.
It's just like sticks left. So I was like,
You're like,
oh
it's dead.
man,
No.
I did it. I killed an orchid. Who
It's
knew?
dead now. Yeah, you're supposed to give it like that's the only plant I've been able to keep alive as an orchid is just get. And someone said you just put an ice cube in on the soil once per week, and I'm like, I can
And that's
do
what I
that.
was doing. So I thought I did it.
You
I was like,
did.
it's surviving.
You
and then I
didn't.
came home and all the petals were off.
You didn't kill it. You freed it. You freed it, and now
I
it's
set it free.
you
Now
set
it's
it
really free.
Yeah. Now maybe it'll survive in the dump. You know, maybe
Maybe
it'll
it will.
just
Maybe it'll blossom
exactly
and bring light to the dump.
so sad.
It's so sad.
Yeah, but then we have those kids that they love that. You know, they love to
Yeah.
try and figure out how to like make sure that the soil is exactly the right. Is it acidity? I don't even know.
Yeah,
See,
I don't
just
even
gonna start making stuff up.
I'm
at this
just
point.
like the precipitation. I don't know.
The water cycle. Recently, okay, so this is something I just found out about plants. So,
Yeah.
like, I grew up in Southern California where everything's dead all the time, right? Very dry heat. It's a desert that they've irrigated, which is why it burns down every like 6 to 7 years, right?
Yeah.
So now living in the Midwest, things live, things are alive around me all the time. And thankfully, I don't have allergies, but I went to a fair and the local county fair is surrounded by cornfields. And did you know that corn sweats?
I did not know that.
Corn. So, and before the science teachers come after me, it is a part of photosynthesis for all plants that they all exude a certain amount of moisture. That is part of photosynthesis. I
Okay.
posted on my stories about corn sweat and the amount of science teachers that were like, that's all plants, actually, Andrea. Like, it's not just.
You're like, okay,
corn.
fine.
You're embarrassing yourself. But I'm like, no, but like in the Midwest where you have acres and acres and acres and acres of corn, it can really add up. And so that is part of what causes the intense humidity in certain areas around the cornfields and it like just doesn't lessen because you end up with, which is also, I found out why the rainforests are also partially so prone to like really intense rain showers because all those plants
All
are
those
like
plants.
perspiring. Yes. But they call it
Who
corn
knew?
sweat. I know. They call it corn sweat, which is gross, but
But hey,
hey,
it is what it is.
it is. And so I've learned about that since moving here. Now that
Yeah.
I'm basically a farmer at this stage is
Oh yeah,
is
because
what
you're
I'm
out in
saying.
Indiana. Yeah, you're
I am out
there.
in Indiana amongst the corn sweat. Yeah. It is very
Immersed
very
in corn sweat.
just swimming through it. It is so humid. And I didn't understand like I've been because Virginia gets humid. Like
Yeah, for sure.
to be
Oh my
so
gosh.
for real. Like and there's
Oh my gosh.
there's cornfields in Virginia, but not like the Midwest. Like
Yeah.
and it gets very, very humid there. But
Mhm.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe this is just my memory romanticizing it. But when I lived there, I feel like we hid in the air conditioning more. In the Midwest, people are like, you know what we should do is outside activities. It's 95 degrees and 100% humidity. Let's go sit out on a dirt track and stare at stuff for hours on end. It'll be great.
No.
It's
You
terrible.
know.
It's so terrible.
It's so terrible. Yes, we do hide in the AC here.
right? Like,
Yes.
I don't
Mhm.
remember ever exposing myself to the elements so aggressively when I
I know,
lived in
right? You're like,
Virginia.
listen.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
this is great. Let's do outside activities in the fall or,
Yeah,
you know,
which
spring.
is sustainable. Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, but you're right though. It's funny because like it is humid here, and our area is one of the I don't want to say only, but one of the few areas in Virginia that offer agriculture
Yeah.
as like at most of our high schools because of the acreage
Yeah.
out here in the middle of nowhere.
You're almost
It's
in the
so
middle of
funny
nowhere.
that it's like it's so funny and like you were saying how diverse we are because like we back up to downtown and then you go as far out as like Spotsy and with all the open fields. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So those of you guys who, I don't know if we've actually said it, like Fredericksburg, Virginia area is where we're talking about. Is like that general area, which is the general area where I had my first teaching job. And I was actually at Leslie's school when I was in my, pre-service and all of that kind of stuff. But it is
Yes.
like, it's right along the Mason-Dixon line, which people in that area know. But if you're not from that area, Mason-Dixon line, like that is like the north and the south. Is
Yeah.
like, that is the Mason-Dixon line.
Mhm.
And usually I felt like I knew I was like actually in this, because a lot of people will say, which I take issue with, that Fredericksburg is not the South. I
They do
disagree.
say that.
I disagree based on the sweet tea availability in
100%.
Fredericksburg.
Thank you.
Yes. As soon
Once
as you
sweet tea
have,
is available.
yes, without, and to like, this is sweet. This is not like the Nestea. This is like, they got a
Legit.
pitcher. They put it out, like they've got it already in the fridge. This is not coming from like a machine. They are like making true sweet tea.
With cups and cups of sugar.
Yeah. You've gotten to the North once you stop somewhere and you're like, can I get some sweet tea? And they're like, well, we have unsweetened and some sugar packets. And you're like,
yeah. And then now, like not only are they offering sugar packets, they're offering you the syrup, the sugar syrup.
Is that
I'm
any
like, yeah,
better?
no, I'm good.
I haven't tried that.
Yeah, like I know I'm good.
Yeah.
No,
say syrup.
it doesn't help. Yeah, well, right. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break and we will be right back. Welcome back. I am very curious about this, and I'm not sure if it's something you deal with much in the FACS classroom, but have you ever had a class that you had to co-teach? So you had like a co-teacher that was in there with you and you're having to like team teach or any of that kind of stuff?
Well, it was a long time ago. For a semester, I had a co-teacher who was a special ed teacher.
Okay.
And that way she could work with the kids who needed a smaller group setting. I had that once for half a year.
So this is on my mind because a couple of schools that I am familiar with, they're not trying to increase class sizes. But what they're trying to do is bring in the students who are on an IEP or a 504 plan that are normally in self-contained, and they're trying to bring them into the general ed classroom because we always, per the law, we want to have the least restrictive environment, which is legally what we are supposed to be doing. And so one of the ways they're trying to address that is they are then bringing these kids in and are having the special educator teachers come in and basically help co-teach. Now, that was my experience. That was my experience when I first started teaching. In Virginia, I feel like they do that a lot. In California, I did not see it nearly as much. But in Virginia, one of the things that they often will do is they will have a class where they've got a lot of students that have different kind of learning needs, and they'll put 2 teachers in there. And the idea or the goal is that there is a cap on how many students who have IEPs or 504s are in that class. And then there's an overall cap on the classroom size. But what ends up happening in my experience is that they don't pay attention to those caps. And so you end up having 35 kids in the class. I never had 35 in Virginia. You'll have, I think the biggest I ever had in Virginia was 29 kids, but like 21 of them had different learning needs that were pretty intense.
Yeah.
And the ones I taught as well were seniors. So these kids have had learning challenges their entire educational careers. And so they've got all of these behaviors that a lot of times come along with some of those learning needs because they're coping and trying to not feel uncomfortable in a classroom setting. And so you have this group of kids who are doing just the most all the time. And then you have yourself and a co-teacher. And for me, I had such a hard time. First of all, as a first-year teacher, I didn't know what I was doing. But then different teaching styles that the teacher I was working with was very strict and very tense and all of that. And I was just like me. So I was less of that. And so then there was like this weird dichotomy where like they felt like I was like the fun mom and then like she was like the mean mom. And I didn't know how to bridge that. So I didn't know if you have taught any classes where you felt like there was just a really good mesh and you were able to co-teach really successfully.
Well, even though it was only my own, the one experience I had, it was actually pretty good. Like, because the teacher was like, listen, she established from the beginning. She was like, listen, I know this is your class and I'm here as a guest. And she's like, and you just tell me in what dynamic and what my role is. So like the fact that she let me define her role was great. But then you have like some people whose teachers that they got assigned to were like coming in thinking they running the show and then telling you where to go, how to get there and how to come back. And so that definitely shifts the whole atmosphere of the classroom, the whole environment.
Yeah.
But the fact that she came in and she was literally like, hey, you just tell me what I need to do. And then
Yeah.
we worked together, but it was almost like she took on an assistant role, which I know that's not, heaven forbid. But that was just with her. She was
Yeah.
willing to do that, like to take a step back because she wanted me to make sure that I was comfortable. This is a new thing for me, new thing for her. But she's like, just let's see how it works. So it was good.
Well, and I think that one of the things, like, I feel like when people hear that, right, like that, oh, she
Mhm.
took on an assistant role, they would think that's like a negative thing. To me, as like the course subject teacher having a special educator in the classroom, I am always trying to be cognizant of their load that they have, because every sped teacher that I've worked with has not only had to be subject matter experts in the field of special education. And I don't know if people know this or not, but as a special education teacher, you are licensed for K-12 sped,
Mhm.
which means you could be in an 11th grade math class, or you could be in a second grade classroom, and you better be able to
Exactly.
do all of it.
Yep.
That's
And bounce back
insane
and
to
forth.
me.
Yep.
Yes. And that is so crazy to me. The expectations on special educators that they have to be proficient in every single subject, every single grade. Like you,
And
and
manage an
not,
insane amount of cases.
and by the way, you're in charge of the IEPs. You've got to differentiate for all of these classes. You've got to understand the material well enough to differentiate it, which also is a high degree of understanding.
Yep.
If you put me in a senior level math class and you expect me to explain it to anyone, even like to myself, we are going to have a bad
Exactly.
time.
We're going to
Like,
have a horrible time. Yeah.
yes. And I didn't fully understand until I started working at the university, and now I was chatting with all of my future sped teachers, and we were talking about, cuz my very first, and I feel so bad about this. I didn't know that in the state of Indiana, I don't know if it's the same as Virginia, but for special education, they don't have grade level teaching standards. So I was like, okay, like we need to figure out what your standards are. They didn't have them because they're all based on the IEPs. So
Huh.
I was like, let's do lesson plans. So you need to go on there. You need to look at a state standard, pick a state standard, create a lesson plan for it. Like that was kind of what we were working on.
Yeah.
And they were like, we can't find any state standards. And I was like, what? I was like, that's crazy. So we're like looking through, trying to find state standards, realizing like, oh, no, you don't have state standards because the state standards are the core subject matter material. That's
Mhm.
the standard. And then their
Yeah.
goals are the IEPs, and for those of you
Pulled
guys who
from
aren't
that.
teachers,
Yep.
yeah, the
Mhm.
individualized education plan that help the kid access the curriculum at a way that will make sense to them. And I didn't realize that. And then we started going through and talking about what these teachers were having to do at every level. And it blew my mind. It
It's
blew my mind.
insane.
And it's why there's constantly a shortage of special education
I
teachers,
know.
and why the teacher that you worked with probably was like, I'm fine to come in
She's
in
like,
an
look,
assistant role. Like, you tell me,
whatever
I don't
you
want to
need.
make one more decision in my day. And I feel like it's such a hard balance because I worked with one teacher that was very much like that. But
Mhm.
then I felt like it wasn't that helpful because I felt like I had to then make the choices for her with things that I was, and it
Mm.
stressed me out more because at that point I was so new. I didn't know what choices to make. And I
Yeah.
needed to kind of rely a little bit more on her expertise as a special education instructor.
Mhm.
And so I had that. And then I had the other kind that was like, there was tension because she was so strict with the kids. And so I think that one of the things that the school districts should do, without a doubt, is provide time, resources, and coverage for your teachers. If you're expecting two teachers to co-teach together on a core subject,
100%.
give them time to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, I found out the day before school started when the sped teacher came in and was like, hey, I'm teaching first period with you. And I was like, you are? Like, what? What do you
Yay.
do? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and then also
Exactly.
because I didn't understand the way it worked, because I started on a emergency license. I was like, so you're a para, or, and she's like, no, I'm a licensed teacher. And I'm like, oh, but
Mhm.
you're in my class. It's like that, the lack of specific instructions and specific expectations laid out was incredibly damaging to the start of the semester, because had somebody just been like, hey, instead of spending 2 hours in this pointless professional development from
Yeah.
professor from a university that you're never going to see again. Why don't we instead have you actually spend that time with somebody who specializes in communication between special educators and core teachers and can give you a couple of different ways that you can co-teach successfully? And
100%.
like, wouldn't that solve so many problems of like, hey, let's actually have a conversation about what it is to be a co-teacher, and don't just show us pictures of different types of co-teaching models. Give us time to talk about like expectations. Like, is English something you like? Because if you're the sped teacher in my classroom and you hate English, I'm not going to ask you to sit down and like break down. I'll do that part, and then you can help with something else,
Right.
Because
like planning time.
Yeah, exactly. Or just expectations on grading. Like, are we expecting these teachers to help with grading? How much are we expecting it? And what does, planning time look like together? I just feel like we are doing such a disservice in every school I've worked at to the special education instructors, where they are just burning out. And
yeah, for sure. And I agree with you on that. Like, especially at the beginning of the year, like it should, like you said, it should be like a half the time where they're explaining expectations. Then, hey, now you and your co-teacher, you guys will go meet and figure out what the year looks like.
Yeah. And, I feel again, I feel terrible for the special education teachers, because in high school, you're talking about 5 different teachers then that they're going to have to meet with and discuss, and they have all the cases from all those classes, and they have all of the different paperwork, and legally they are supposed to get all that paperwork out to all of the teachers before the first day of school. And I just give so much money to the special education teachers.
Well, yeah. And the struggle also in that is that when it comes to the IEPs and things like that, getting a general education teacher to show up to an IEP meeting during a specific time is like literally, if they can get one in, it's like finding gold for them, because they send it out to all of us, but most of us either are in planning. I mean, we're not on planning. We have either a duty during that planning, if we are on planning, or we are in class. So like to get that general education teacher to be present in an IEP meeting is like pulling teeth. So
yeah, exactly. And a lot of times they want us to have data, right? Of like how the kid's doing. Are they 70% of the time listening to instructions on the first time? And I'm like,
exactly.
This is also, this is probably a little guilt fueled of how I know how useless I probably was for these poor special education teachers. They're like, about 70% of the time, are they getting it right on the first or second try? And I'm like, 70%? How many times? 7 out of 10. Well, we don't do it 10 times. We maybe do it like 3 or 4 times. What's 70% of 3? Is that 1? Or is that 2?
Yep,
I'm with you.
I'm with you.
I'm just like,
I'm with you.
Sometimes.
Majority? Is that count? I mean, I don't know.
More often than not. And they're like, well, we need the data. And I'm like, I hear you. Yes, I hear you on that.
You're like, I understand. I
know you
definitely
do.
Get it.
I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, I am profoundly ADHD, so I need an IEP just for myself, for functioning 100%. As an adult.
Yes, I definitely could use a 504 plan at least.
Yeah, if someone could give me some accommodations and
that would
try and
be
track.
Fantastic.
Oh my gosh, it is it's just so challenging sometimes.
It's so hard. Like, so when I hear like people say, or even my students, because my friend next door, she teaches Teachers for Tomorrow. So like, that's a big program that has now come out because we have such a teacher shortage. They're trying to promote it beginning at the high school level. And one of the students, this is so terrible, last year, they had their practicum experience where, they leave the classroom, they actually go to a classroom and work in the area in which they want to be. And this girl was hardcore. Like, I'm going to teach SPED. I'm going to teach SPED. She was there all of 3 weeks, assigned to her teacher that she's shadow, and she was out. She's like, I'm out. Yeah. So I get it.
And the horrible thing is, and this is not to discourage anyone that wants to be a special education teacher, because we're not doing
that.
But I don't know. I don't know any special education teacher that I've spoken to that would encourage a loved one to become a special education teacher.
Right.
Like, I don't know a single one. And that's awful.
Especially a present day special education teacher.
Exactly.
Because it's not just data anymore. You're having to actually learn these new software systems and trackings and all these other things. It's not just, hey, like, I'm just keeping up with the kid's case. Like, it's like intense.
Which also, and if I do have any SPED teachers listening, there is a tool on magicschool.ai. This is in no way sponsored, but magicschool.ai, it does have a creation tool for IEPs that may save people time. Just putting that out there, go give it a Google.
Same with eduade.ai, same.
Yes. Yeah, both of those tools.
They also have
highly,
one.
Yeah, highly recommend. I worked with some teachers recently that came to the university and they had never heard of Magic School AI. They only knew kind of about ChatGPT. So I brought up Magic School and I brought up an EduAid and I was showing them and they're like minds blown.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, like anything we can do to save time for, especially for SPED teachers.
Yeah. I actually teach PD on AI now because I want teachers to understand like to help with teacher burnout and to help with the teacher shortage. Like, dude, this is a way to like, hey, let's not reinvent the wheel. If it works, it works. And so for most teachers, it works for them. But yeah, AI has been essential for the classroom. Essential.
Yeah, I love that you do that. Since you do that, you said Magic School and EduAid. Are there any other ones that you are like, these were game changers for me?
Those were the two, and you nailed it. Like Magic School Tools and eduade.ai. Eduade.ai, the reason why I'm more keen towards that is because career and technical education is included. So like they have lots of resources to cover career and tech ed, which Magic School Tools didn't have as many.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too for people that like a lot of the teachers I worked with were kind of like, oh, I just thought AI was, it's cheating and it's, and they'd only really heard of ChatGPT. And I'm like, listen, if we want teachers to stick around, we need to use the tools available to us. Like that would be like at this point being like, well, let's not use Google to look up peer-reviewed research articles. Let's go to the library physically and physically find peer-reviewed articles. I don't even know if they physically like make printed copies anymore, Yeah. Like let's do what we have to do as educators to make this a sustainable profession. So I absolutely use that with my students that are going to be future teachers. Like we talk about lesson planning and curriculum and all of that. And then I have them pull up Magic School AI and EduAid and we look at them. And cause I don't want them I don't want them to be burned out in 3 years. I want them to be doing things to, make the things that could be easy because there's enough that is always going to be hard as educators.
100%. And the best part I love about AI is that, like you said, it helps to reduce like that burnout, to like make education easier. But a lot of teachers tend to think, and they get like, because they think it's going to replace us. I'm like, guys, it'll never replace us.
No.
Like they still need that physical human interaction. Like it's never going to replace us.
Well, and I think the thing is too, is like there are some kids that can learn on self-paced modules on computers, which is already happening. There are some
for sure.
highly motivated learners.
Oh yeah.
But I was never that student. Like I was not the kid that could have done that. Like just being so for real. I couldn't have focused. It wouldn't have happened.
Legit.
Yeah.
No.
And there's always going to be a need for educators to have the expertise to know when ChatGPT comes up with ridiculous stuff. Like or Magic School comes up with something ridiculous. It was so funny. So, okay. Are you an Office fan? I think you are. I feel like we've talked about this, but.
Oh, no.
No, you're not an Office fan?
I've never even seen it.
Oh, no.
I know.
Okay.
I know. And it's terrible because I just did a gig a couple years ago. I did a gig with Rainn Wilson, the Dwight from The Office.
You did a gig with Rainn Wilson and you're not an Office fan, Leslie.
And so you should have seen me when I showed up. I had no idea what anybody was talking about. I was just like, yeah, totally.
Leslie, that broke my heart. And
I had no idea.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
This makes it harder to explain the AI mistake that was happening. But there is a scene in The Office where, do you know who Jim is in The Office? Tall, skinny white guy.
Okay,
not Dwight.
Now I do know the actors.
Okay, great.
Like based on that, if you say tall, skinny white guy, I got you. I'm with you.
Great. So there was a scene in there where to play a prank on Dwight, he had this guy come in who is an Asian actor who pretended that he was Jim, and he just like gaslit Dwight it was like an opener. And it was like a 6-minute skit or whatever. And they even there was even like a family photo. They had replaced like Jim's face with this actor. And so it was very complex. Right. And so now and this guy was also in the new Avengers movies. And I'm blanking it on what his name was. So Rob, if you want to pop his name as that actor who plays Asian Jim. I can't remember, but that guy, it's a very quick clip. And I've actually heard interviews with this actor because people will yell at him out of their car windows, be like, Asian Jim. And for a long time, he thought they were just being racist because there was all of this like Asian American hate recently. He didn't realize, because it was like a one-day shoot he did and he forgot about it. He didn't realize people were like fans of The Office and were excited to see him because of that, which like maybe don't yell Asian Jim out of the car door just in general.
Not during a time where it's like that.
Right. So this actor, who I need to figure out what his name is, but this actor went and he did an ad and he was interacting with, oh my gosh, I can't remember who. Okay, his name is Randall Park, is this actor. And he's very, very funny. And he was in a video, and you know how on Facebook now they have all of like the AI summary of what's happening in the videos or in the comments, right?
Oh yeah.
And because so many people referred to Randall Park as Jim from The Office, the AI thought it was in fact not Randall Park, but Jim from The Office. And so the AI summary was saying it was, what Jim from The Office? John Krasinski. I'm the worst Office fan. John Krasinski. Thank you, Rob. So John Krasinski is not in the video, but because Randall Park was in the video and everyone was referring to him as Jim from The Office or as John Krasinski or as any of that kind of stuff.
Asian Jim, yeah.
Or Asian Jim. The AI thought that it was John Krasinski in the video. And
oh my gosh.
Those are the things that seem like so small, but like if we're only relying on AI,
legit,
and we don't have the cultural knowledge to understand, like, wait, that's not John Krasinski. Like, why does the AI think that?
Yeah,
because we understand, like, as well. I guess you wouldn't have gotten the joke because you.
Well, yeah,
you haven't seen The Office.
I hadn't seen it,
even though you hung out with Rainn Wilson.
I know. It was so funny. Like literally, and it was like everybody was making all these references and stuff that he said, and I'm like, what? Like, I had no idea.
Was he nice?
No idea. He was nice, but he's very weird.
No, that's exactly what I've heard, is that there is definitely, like, the first time Rainn Wilson introduced his wife to the other cast members on The Office. Clearly I love The Office and have listened to their podcast, the Office Ladies podcast and all that. He introduced his wife to his colleagues as, "Here is my wife, bearer of my seed," because she was pregnant.
It's like a Sheldon introduction.
Yeah.
That's like something Sheldon would say.
He apparently is he's just Rainn
him.
Wilson. Yeah, he is himself. Yeah. So you need to watch it. That's your homework for the rest of summer.
Yeah, that's what everybody always tells me. They're like, listen, just
Leslie,
watch it.
Do it for our friendship.
It's just the look of it. Like the mock, what do they call it?
Mockumentary.
I don't like that look. It messes with my head.
Just,
I know.
You can do it. I believe
and then they were like, after you do that, you got to do Parks and Rec. And I'm like, do I?
Yeah. And then Abbott Elementary and.
Oh, I love Abbott Elementary. Now that I can do.
That's the same type. Oh my gosh,
know. And that's the terrible part is I am like a hypocrite. Like legit. I'm a mockumentary hypocrite.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So one of the things we always do on the podcast is I get questions from listeners and then I have folks share their advice. So the question we got was, after 2 years of being rated proficient, I was told I am not being recommended to continue because I am not a good fit. I am a special education teacher and fully co-taught this year. I was told that because the students were talking during my observation, even though they were on topic, and she was told that this late in the year, that shouldn't be happening. Like, they shouldn't be talking while she's instructing. At the beginning of the year, I said I wouldn't see students not in my caseload because it is during the multi-tiered systems of support. And the specific time is when I work with my IEP students. So she was like, I'm only going to work with my IEP students during the specific time.
Yeah.
And for those who are unfamiliar with this multi-tiered system of supports, basically you have to try and give a little bit of support to some kids before you give them like a full IEP kind of a thing.
Right.
Or I don't want to misspeak on that. Before increasing the amount of supports for a student, you have to make sure you are adequately providing the supports at the tier that they're currently at. I think I want to phrase it that way.
Their current level. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I don't want to say they can't get an IEP because I think that they absolutely can if they have those kind of needs.
Right.
But this teacher was like, I already have my caseload. I'm not going to work with these other kids. Principal said in a meeting with an interventionist that my mere presence in the room fulfills their minutes, which I'm guessing they have to do some form of intervention with these students. And if they are in the room, that counts as time towards helping them. Everyone else is afraid to speak up, she says, for fear of losing their job. Honestly, that sounds like a win for you to not be at that school anymore. To be so first,
I'd be like so happy to be out. Like clearly, that's a setup. Like
that is insane. And you're a special education teacher. Just shout from a rooftop, I'm a fully licensed special education teacher and I need a job. And every school in the freaking county will be like, we'll take you. We will take you. Thank you so much.
And probably give you an increase.
Exactly.
Legit.
Yeah.
Because I know if it's anything like here, you go to the next county over, you're going to make a ton of more money.
Oh, yeah, exactly. The further you get from sweet tea, the more money you end up making.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
But no, that is totally unfair. Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Definitely girl bye. Like, bye, y'all.
Exactly. Have the best time at your next job where you're going to be much 100%.
Enjoy yourself, girl. Enjoy yourself.
Exactly. The other thing I do, and it's during summer. So normally I say, what are your kids doing for teachers on Fridays on Instagram? But it's the middle of summer for us right now as we're recording this. So I went back and I found one that then reminded me of something that happened with my own children. So somebody said a 3-year-old peed their pants on purpose and then cried because her pants were wet. Honestly,
my gosh.
Honestly, like every 3-year-old is so like that. Like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to pee myself. And then like, oh, there's consequences to my actions. This is really unfortunate.
Oh, and I believe it because I used to teach preschool. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
100% believe it.
I love my small children. I don't know that I could deal with like the constant moisture involved with all the other small children.
Which is why I now teach high school.
Yeah, exactly.
High school is my sweet spot. I could not do the littles.
High school is just so much fun. I love it.
I love it, yeah.
The pee pants story did remind me, we were flying back. I was flying with my 4-year-old and 6-year-old back from California. And my daughter was on our way to the airport. She started saying like, I don't feel good. Like right before we left, she asked for a trash bag from my father. And I was like, oh no. Because my daughter she doesn't tend to be dramatic about stuff like that. And she's like, I need a trash bag. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh man.
So halfway to the airport, she just opens the trash bag, pukes her guts out. Right. And I'm like, this is going to be a long day.
Yeah. This is going to be a lot longer than I thought.
Such a long day. So she's puking her guts out in the back. What a champion, because she doesn't get anything in the rental car at all. Just pukes in the bag, ties that sucker up. And well
done.
Right. I know. I'm so proud. And so then we get another trash bag and we're walking to the flight. And then she's like, my stomach hurts. I need to go to the bathroom. I'm like, okay. So we go and then we go again. And then we get on the flight and I take her one more time. And then we get onto the flight and I'm like, okay, like we are waiting, sitting there, and they kind of start to kind of taxi around. And then I realized like, okay, we got like 20 minutes left or 20 minutes since we've moved. And she is sitting there and I can see her like, Mom, I got to poop. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't.
Oh, no.
No, you don't, baby. You don't.
Oh, no.
And she's like, I do. Mom, I do. I'm like, oh my God. And I am so terrified she's going to poop her pants. Champion, because we make it all the way up into flight and I see like the flight attendants unbuckle and I take her back and she makes it. Thank God.
Oh my God.
It was one of those where absolute champion.
For sure.
But I was literally sitting there like, what am I going to do if she poops her pants? This is a 4.5-hour flight. I didn't bring a change of pants for her. What are we going to do? I was like, this is going to be so bad.
Yeah.
But thank God she made it and all of that. But I just think about all of those, pre-K teachers that are dealing with that kind of stress. I mean, I guess you could just, call home and be like, hey, like.
Yeah. Well, and the best part about it for preschool is most of the time, like we have the parents submit emergency pair of clothes in a Ziploc bag at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is when they use it and the parents forget to refill it. That's the problem.
Yeah, I was that parent a few times where then they would come home with something that said like the preschool written in Sharpie across the front because we had like the loaner clothes.
You're like,
It's
okay,
rough.
yeah, we got to return those. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm
Yeah,
so sorry.
But your daughter definitely deserved an award for that because that was
right. She was a champion. There was one point as we were like lifting off and she's like, and her eyes got really big and I was like, she's doing it. She is pooping her pants in this flight right now. And I literally like took my hands and pushed on either side of her butt cheeks, trying to keep her.
You're like, come on, let's just keep
I was like,
it in.
you're not
Suck
gonna
it
poop. Please do not poop on this plane.
She's like, squeeze your cheeks, squeeze your cheeks.
I know. I was like, please don't. And she's like, I'm gonna do it. She was like shaking.
I'm trying.
I know. She's such a champion. She made it, but
yeah,
it was
legit. She's a pro.
Oh gosh, it was rough. I was like, well, that's going to prepare her for college one day. Is just like
100%
booting and rallying and just, making it through.
Learning how to squeeze the cheeks is a talent.
You got to learn at some age.
It's a skill.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, before I let you go today, can you share what projects and stuff you have coming up, where people can see you and find you and all that good stuff?
Oh, okay. Well, as far as projects, nothing on the horizon other than some comedy shows coming up. I'm going to be on the Board Teachers Comedy Tour again. I have 4 shows coming up in September. As far as how people can see me or find me, every day I post something to keep us all laughing as far as teachers on my social media. It's on all platforms, Leslie Robb Comedy. And every day I try to either put out a piece of content that makes you guys laugh or encourages you or both. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yay. Are you going to be at the Indianapolis stop for the Board Teachers Comedy Tour?
No.
Leslie.
I know.
One of these
days. We have got to make this work at some point.
Yeah. There's been several I think you were in San Diego, but I had just moved or there was something like that.
Yeah.
But one of these days I'm going to catch it.
You got to make it work.
That's right. If you ever come through either, because usually they make a stop in Evansville and they do Indianapolis and it usually switches off. So usually if they do fall Indianapolis, they do like a spring in Evansville-ish. So I'm going to, at one of these days.
Yeah. And they're always rotating the comics. So like, you never know.
I'll catch you. One of these days, I will definitely catch you. Awesome. Yes. And again, guys, you can find her at Leslie Robb Comedy and that's Instagram, TikTok, anywhere else?
Yep. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Threads.
Everywhere. Just Google her. Yeah. You're going to find her everywhere. Perfect.
You're going to find me.
Awesome. Well, Leslie, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. All right, guys. We will be right back. Bye. Welcome back to Those Who Can't Do. I hope you enjoyed my chat with Leslie. It's so fun that she and I have so many shared experiences with me having taught in like the exact same, so I didn't teach in the exact same district, but I did like my little practicum stuff in that district. So I feel like I really, you can understand a community in a way that I feel like other people just can't if you've not taught in it, because it's kind of like, I've used this before, but I feel like teaching is a lot like if you go to the DMV and you're sitting in a room that is just a mishmash of your community, for better and for worse. And I'm not talking about the people that work at the DMV, but like the other people that are at the DMV. And you basically, as a teacher, that is kind of who you work with, is like the mishmash of humanity from a specific community that all has to legally be there. And you get to be the worker at the DMV that is trying to convince them that they, except for you actually have to make the people pretend to want to be at the DMV. Which is why teaching can be so hard, because you have to be the DMV worker and you have to convince everyone who has to be there that they want to be there, which really, I think, explains why DMV workers tend to not be the happiest people that I mean, maybe they are. I have a friend whose mom worked at the DMV and she was lovely, but some other people have been an experience to come across. I don't know why this turned into like bashing DMV workers. I'm so sorry. Anyways, I hope you liked my chat with Leslie. It was really, really fun. Like I said, I've been following her for a while and she does a lot of like really silly, goofy stuff with her teacher comedy. I haven't seen her do her stand-up yet. I'm very excited to see her when she comes through Indiana at some point. She's again with Board Teachers, like a lot of the other comedians that I've had come through. So if you are going to be going to one of the shows, you can always email the individual comedians and say like, hey, what are your specific dates? Because a lot of times board teachers will just have dates out there and then you kind of get whoever they were able to bring in. But I've never gone to a show there and not had a really good time. So if they are coming to your city, I recommend that you try and go and see those hilarious comedians. And just spending a night with like a bunch of other teachers having fun is fantastic. So if you have thoughts about what we talked about today or suggestions on who you would like to hear on the podcast, you can hit us up at Andrea@human-content.com or on my socials at Educator Andrea. That's going to be on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, or you can contact my Human Content Podcast family at Human Content Pods. And thank you to the wonderful listeners who have spent the time and energy, since I know we don't have a lot of that as educators, to go and write a review for the podcast. It makes my week. It makes me so happy, and it helps other people find the podcast. Just like the person whose name on there is Piglet 2000. As an adorable name. Piglet 2000 on Apple said, I love this woman. I've been watching her videos on Instagram for a few years since I've transitioned to high school English. She mixes reality with sarcasm so well and doesn't take herself too seriously. The podcast is just what I need once a week to refresh. Yay. That is exactly what I'm hoping, Piglet 2000, is that it is exactly that. It makes you laugh and helps you feel refreshed and helps you feel seen with your teaching experience. And if you're not a teacher and you love the pod, then I hope it just gives you a little peek into what teachers are experiencing and going through on a daily and a weekly basis. If you're wanting a full video episode so you can see my beautiful face and a lot of times my super cool shirts, like I've got this Stay Gold shirt on that is a reference to The Outsiders, then you can catch the full episodes up every week on YouTube at Educator Andrea. Thank you so much for listening. I don't know why that was so hard to say. I am your host, Andrea Forcum, and a very special thank you to today's co-host, Leslie Robb. Our executive producers are Andrea Forcum, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Our editor is Andrew Sims. Bless him for his good works. Our engineer is Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omer Benzvi. Our recording location is the Indiana State by College of Education. Learn more about our Those Who Can't Do's program disclaimer and ethics policy and submission, verification, and licensing terms. You can go to podcasterandrea.com. Those Who Can't Do is a human content production. Those Who Can't Do. Thank you so much for watching. If you're like me and you're thinking, gosh, I really need more Those Who Can't Do in my life, you can start your binging right now by clicking on that playlist button right over there. New episodes are out every Thursday, so please subscribe and join us each week on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Human content.